As I said, this meeting is somewhat of an informal meeting. We're going to have a meeting primarily amongst ourselves. We'll probably talk about the old days, and one of the things we didn't practice at the old days was this practice of running the steps by with we's and uhs. We've been around long enough to remember that. So we don't have to... Not only is it a distraction, it's something that the kids do in school. And the thing we are here for is trying to mature and get out of school in that particular fashion. So if we do things a little strange, we're getting a little old and decrepit, and we go back to kind of what we think or what we have learned along the way. But we found it as effective, the reason we are still here. One of the things I would like to do just as an exercise, because I've seen many people that I've run across during this gathering, a tremendous amount of people that said has over 20 years, and it was lucky if we had over 20 days very often. I'd like just for people to raise their hand and hold it up that got over 20 years in this room. Let that be a testament that this here thing works. Recovery is possible in Narcotics Anonymous. And that's it. I understand. Sometimes we walk through the crowds of people and we know not the ones that next to you have been for a while on this journey. And we try to stay on this journey, hopefully, in your recovery. And the testament that there are people that are still here and still alive. And there are many that has gone by the wayside that have died clean. And that's kind of important that we can die clean also. And the people on this stage here represent, people that the remembrance of those times gone by, because we were sitting down a little earlier trying to recapture some of the people that have gone, some of the people that we remember, and some of the people we have hold near and dear to us in terms of this journey. I'm sorry that Hank had to go home, but he's been getting sick for the last 2 or 3 years, and it looks like when he get away from home, is when he really gets sick, I don't know if it's excitement. Sometimes I think it's excitement sometimes that gets it. But we are best to him in a speedy recovery, and it just so happens that we do have another party that said to travel the same journey and come right along with him, standing side by side. To see Rick and Hank and George in there making coffee and getting the meeting started. Maybe that might have been the meeting at any given time. We'd be sitting waiting for somebody to come in the door. If we didn't bring them, we may not have had nobody else but us sitting around the table, because Sylvia and I used to go to a place called Breed Street, and the house full of addicts, and nobody would come to a meeting. We have to dump a big pot of coffee because they wouldn't come to the meeting. What y'all doing in there? We're having a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Come on in and share this thing here. Oh, not tonight. I got business to take care of. Addicts all over the world got business to take care of when it's talking about recovery. And it's not recovery that they're talking about, other things. But those kind of memories, as to where we come, as to the far place we come today. I see the many people in the crowd that I've run across through the years at distant places, places Australia and London, Paris, all over the world that I've been able to the opportunity to travel and meet people, and I see them here. And they come to visit me. They come to visit, say, I came to visit you. Great, all right, It's working in these other places too, and it's working real well. So I probably will pick out and tell people to remember when. And it's nothing special, it's just to remember when. If it doesn't coincide with something you maybe heard or read or whatever, that's okay too. It's called their remember when, not your remember when. So with that, I'd like to kind of turn it over to Sylvia, because Sylvia was kind of like our recorder of things. See, she was the one that could write. That's what, if you want to know what that is. And she kept notes. She kept copious notes. She wrote about everybody. I guess everybody and everything. I guess, I never tell her, she never shared the notes with me, but I mean, she'd make them notes. So I'd like to know maybe now what she used to do with them notes and things. Sil, it's on you.
Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Sylvia, and I am a very, very grateful junkie and alcoholic. I heard a commercial the other day on the radio about Ben and Jerry, and they were talking about one of their flavors was Chunky Monkey. And I had a Chunky Monkey right here. And I'm the class of 1962. And grateful to the loving God of these 12 steps. The loving God that has me here, because left to my own devices, I couldn't have found Rhodes and Moore Park back in those days. In fact, I couldn't have found it. The other program found me in the Los Angeles County Jail, where I had been locked up for 3 years. And that woman, 4 women that came there, had Narcotics Anonymous pamphlets that they gave at the AA meeting that they came in, because NA was not able to get into institutions yet. They haven't proved themselves yet. And I remember keeping that little pamphlet at first. I have to be honest with you. When I first got it, I thought, oh man, what, do they have this kind of a meeting? What, they must all be snitches or just people that just can't score anymore. They just can't make it, you know. That's how ignorant I was. And in that jail, there was a woman that just kept talking about these meetings, these NA meetings that you got to go to. And I just thought, I looked at her, I said, well, you radio with that stuff. I mean, you're in here doing 90 days for marks. Because in those days, back then, you didn't even have to have an outfit or any stuff on you. You just have needle marks and you went to jail. That's just the way it was. And to hear her speak about this and figure, how good could it be? You're here in jail, you know. I mean, that's how the self-willed denial brain worked. She died, God bless her, in an alley in Los Angeles, kicked to death, loaded. But you see, my point is, it's what she said. Do what I say, not what I do. You see? And that was my first really encounter about this. There was one vague one way back when. But anyway, to get back to that pamphlet and how I got to Rhodes and Moore Park, to these little meetings. I got out, went to a lot of those other meetings in the county jail where I was for a long time. I mean, I got 3 bullets shot at me running wild, and I was on the 13th floor, and I wasn't going anywhere. But those meetings came, and that woman that had the Narcotics Anonymous pamphlet, the little white pamphlet, I kept it. Even with all my BS about what could it be and how good it be, I kept the little pamphlet. And when I was released, I didn't have an idea that you're supposed to keep going to these meetings after you get out of jail. I thought that's what you do in there, to drink all the coffee and smoke the cigarettes, even if they weren't my brand, that those ladies brought. Selfishness. But, okay, get out here, and my moment came of getting out, and my brother, which all of you, my brothers and sisters, but my blood brother that had to go home, I was staying at his place, and he had had an accident or something and had some Percodan pills. And I went right to the wine, to the Thunderbird wine, and mixed it with that. Because you see, I had an obsession when I came out. I was an alcoholic first. That's my experience. I was primarily an alcoholic first that went to heroin. They were not all these designer drugs in those days. There was, to me, alcohol, heroin, and turpin hydrate, just, that was it. It was not all this fancy stuff. But I noticed, fancy or not, we all got here to the same place, saying our name is such and such, and we're an addict. So back to this pamphlet and this woman. There I am at the gates of just drinking, and the idea, the insane idea comes, oh, hey, I could deal the drugs. I don't have to take it because I was not going. To me, heroin meant locked up for 3 years. That's all it meant, you see, to me. And I was not going to go back there. No way was I going to go back there. And what happened was that I did. Even after being off the scene that long, I found the connection. Had to go to Stanton to find him. But he gave me 2 ounces of heroin on consignment. Just on my rep. On my old man's rep and my rep. Actually his, because I really had no rep. He was a dope fiend from the first waters, really. Anyway, and what happened was a very significant thing for me at that moment before I get to Rhodes and Moore Park, just before, is that I had this heroin placed in my hand, and I recoiled. It was like it was hot, and I knew there was no way I was going to sell that stuff. It was going to go right here. And I just dropped it like a hot coal. I don't know what the connection was thinking of, and I just ran. I just ran to what? The little pamphlet. The little white pamphlet that I had to dig around and get. And to this day, I am ever grateful for those alcoholic women, 4 of them that came in there and gave me that little pamphlet that I was able to call. Hollywood 33124, I think, was the phone number. And who answered was Jimmy K. And he referred me to Penny K, because he said very clearly then, men with men and women with women. And I swear to God, I was so... It took me 3 days to even make the phone call, because I thought you had to be stone cold sober to phone. Nobody told me that, but that was my needs. Then when I had to wait and get the courage enough to call another number, a woman, it took a couple of days. But anyway, I was so confused. I don't know if we went to a Friday night Rhodes and Moore Park meeting or the Sunday afternoon in the Westlake area of downtown Los Angeles. But those were the first 2 meetings that I went to. And Penny came with, I don't know who it was, but he had a big Cadillac. Came to pick me up to take me to my first meeting, which was, I think it was Rhodes and Moore Park. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. Just these small meetings where it was like, I couldn't talk. It was like, don't get anywhere near me. I mean, I'm just going here, and this is it. We're going to find out. And I just stayed like I was a reader. I had found in jail that I was a reader. I'd loved to read as a kid, but I got distracted a little bit with the problems that were happening, at home. This is even before I had my first drink or fix. But anyway, it was a kind of a volatile household. But anyway, I just am so grateful for that reading capacity that I had, that I even found in the Los Angeles County Jail. I didn't know nothing about it. I was looking at the titles to while away 3 years there, and there it was, Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I liked the title. I identified with it. I needed a dictionary with it. And so I think really what Bob was talking about, all that reading and stuff, is that I wish I could be saying that I was doing inventory with all of that writing that I was doing. But that was yet to come. That was yet to come, to face and be rid of my fears and resentments, which I just am so grateful, because without those steps, without the continuation of that 4th step, which is continued in 10, I couldn't be here. There's just no way I could be here. But it removed from learning about those steps in the meetings to the realization that once I took those steps, once my first inventory was taken, I really was no longer powerless. I was powerless over drugs, but I was not taking them anymore. And what I was taking then was the steps. That's what I have to take and continue to take, is these steps to be here. No days off. No days off. 36 years sober, no days off. I woke up this morning and took my inventory. This afternoon I will take it again and go to meditation that I had to be taught, because I can't keep still in my own head, left to my own devices. I am so grateful for this program, for these steps that have me here. Had me there at Rhodes and Moore Park, through thick and thin, through all of it, and able to be an example that these steps work to another phenomenon, to the family. This volatile family that had, as a result of these steps and the example, 4 brothers follow in to do these steps and be here, still be here, all 4 of them, all 5 of us. The steps work if you work them. They really do. I just am so grateful to it. And I continue to be grateful. The first meeting in Berkeley, where I went with my 2 little girls who I had to put off in the playroom, whatever, to sit there and wait, like Bob was talking about in North Hollywood, for people to come. I would say that in the Miracles Can Happen, I wish it would have been more about that first meeting starting there rather than where I worked. And that was it. I worked there, but the meetings were Narcotics Anonymous. Had nothing to do with what I worked, or none of us that worked there. There was no mixing up there. I just am so grateful. And that was the beginning there at 1744 University Avenue in Berkeley, was the first Narcotics Anonymous meeting there. And I just am so grateful. And my 2 little girls in the back trying on the little clothes and playing with the toys and stuff that they had there, and we just waiting with the coffee pot for people to come. And now they're all here. We've learned that, with the resentment and fear, you just get a coffee pot, go start another meeting, somewhere. And here's all, here we are, still, after all this time, still here. And I just am so grateful to God, to these steps, and not being left to my own devices anymore. I just am so grateful. And to have that merciless obsession have been removed. And my experience is it has never returned. It has never returned, and as long as I keep taking these steps, I don't expect it to ever return. Because what I've gotten from God is more than any needle ever gave me.
As a true example of how this thing works, it's just as she was talking, you think of all the things in between that you say you can't always relate all the little stories in between that goes with it. The kids that came back into play in her life where she had to raise children, but she had to take them to meetings, and as she said, they played in the playpen and they entertained themselves, and we go by and see if she's doing okay and get back to the meeting, Those little things that go along in the process of this thing called recovery. Yes, I remember Zona very well. Zona, she died a very tragic death. And I used to see her, because I worked right to where she was staying, and I used to see her tripping up down the street. I said, "You ready, Zona?" And talking about insanity was digging in. She was going insane, and that's part of how she got killed. She went off on somebody, and they killed her. This is our disease. Does many other funny things with us. At the same time, when she was talking about it, remember when Rick went to his first meeting, she said, "Go by and take him to a meeting." Said, "I got him so he'll go, but you're going to have to pick him up. I can't go take him." So I had to meet Rick right about that time. That's okay. Just speak. That's all.
I'm not a very good speaker, but I was thinking while Bob and Syl are talking, how Syl was talking about having to go on somebody's do as I say, not as I do. And that really, I don't do that, man. I can't. And thank God I didn't have to do it, you know. I had somebody in front of me that were actually doing it, you know, because I don't operate on that principle of do as I say, not as I do. I got to see you do it, man, or I don't, you know, I don't want to hear it, you know. And thank God that nobody in this room has to do that, you know. I was thinking, you know, today, damn, you can look at TV and see Narcotics Anonymous, you know. Come on down and get rid of that habit and find a new way of life and so forth, which is beautiful, you know. But that ain't what was happening when I came in, and I'm grateful to my sister and Bob and everybody that was there that gaffled me up and brought me down to a meeting, you know, because, you know, this is a big learning process here. For me, it was, number one, get rid of your habit, which is a big one, you know, that's a big deal, you know. Number two, try to learn what these steps are talking about, you know, and that big one, God, you know, that was a big deal, man, you know. I didn't believe in God, and if I did, I was mad at him, you know. So here I come here, and here's this program that, you know, I don't know. I looked at these people. I thought they all knew what they were doing. I didn't know they were that frightened, you know. I thought they were together. They were, as far as I was concerned. You know, these people had it down. Thank God, man. You know, I came here, what can I say? I looked at the steps. I didn't believe a damn thing, I'll tell you the truth. I didn't believe it. But what I had to believe was that these people were here and they were clean, and I had to believe that. That's about all I believed. You know, as far as the steps and getting with God, you know, no, I did not. I mean, I didn't think I could do that, you know. The steps just put you right through that, you know. I'm not talking to anybody with 20 years or over. Whatever I got to say is to people that are just coming in, because I don't feel I have anything to say to old-timers. So really, after you get something and you've been here a while, you generally have your own way of looking at things. Certainly, God is a really personal type thing, you know. To me it is anyway. I don't know, man. What can I say? You know, Syl says she's grateful, you know. You know how long it took me to even find out what the hell gratitude was, man, you know? I mean, God, you know. And today I feel it. I can actually feel gratitude in my body, you know. And hey, I didn't get here like that, you know. Show me the money. I didn't want to, you know. I don't know about no gratitude, you know. I don't know. When I first came in, it was ragtag like they talk about, but the spirit was strong, man. It was really strong. There was strong spiritual vibrations, you know. Sometimes I'd like to go back. I'm just grateful to be here. I don't have nothing to say except that, you know. I'm grateful I made it this long. I can say one thing. Anybody in this room, you know, if you work these steps, one day, varies, you know, to the degree that you work them. You know, they used to tell me, if you if you put 10% of the effort that you put into chasing that bag every day into working these steps, you got to make it, you know. That's true, you know. It's in the steps. The fellowship is really strong now. Look at this, you know. It's a strong fellowship. But the fellowship only goes so far. You got to get it in your soul. You know, that's the program's in here. You know, the program's in here. You know, I'm just grateful to be here, to know these people, to realize that these are my buddies, man, my friends. You know. I don't know. I'm grateful. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
I believe one of the things that happened, and you said, I understand going back. One of the things that happened, you know, like you're talking about going back, there's a missing ingredient that I think that many of us had in terms of, we had to hang close because we had no outside sources of strength, so to speak. So we had a certain intimacy. We ate together, we ran together, we picked up each other, we go capture, you go on a 12-step call Joe, hey, let's go get them and capture them, you know, and it was we was, you know, into it. It was the enthusiasm that went with it, you know, and we were talking about that this morning, like little Mary here, you know, I've known her over 30-some years, and she, not that she has 30 years, but she was in the process. She was in the process of getting here, you know. She had to do this road work in order to get here. And I'll let Mary tell you about it, you know.
Hi, Mary. I'm an addict.
Hi, Mary.
I'm an alcoholic, and that's how we used to say it. Hank, who, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hank, who they've all said had to go home, used to call me well, here's Mary, the perennial newcomer, and I'd laugh and I'd say, I wonder what perennial means. And for years I didn't know, you know, I just kind of came in and out for a few days, and God bless him, you know. When I see these people, and there's some other ones, Pepe's gone, and Jack W., and there was Dirty Phil we were talking about before, and Paul S., and Frank Barquette, yeah, and I think the first time I came in was in like 1957, and I just, you know, it was always just for a couple of days, check things out. And I thought, as Sylvia was saying, I thought when you came to the meetings that you couldn't be loaded. And so I would go sick. I would suffer. And I would, like, you know, all the running to the bathroom with the diarrhea. Somebody had to talk about that stuff today, right? And you know, the gook running in back of your throat, and the sweats, and shaking, but I'd stay there and I'd say, well, I'm earning a place here, you know, and I didn't know. I would do that all the time. Every time I came to the meetings, as far as I can recollect, maybe I'm lying, I don't know, tell me. But, you know, I would be clean, and then I would be gone. And then I would be clean for a few days, and I'd be gone. But I started meeting more of them as I would come in the different years, because I went years in between. And I remember Sylvia picking me up for meetings, and Bob and I lived in the same neighborhood for I don't know how many years, and he would come by. This is how it used to work. He would come by my house, and he would knock on my apartment door, and I'd be sitting in there, you know, all messed up, and he'd say, hi, Mary, do you want to go to a meeting tonight? Or just want to know if you and my little boy Bobby if you're still alive, or something like that. And I'm going to cry now. Whenever I see these people, my heart swells up. You know, it's just something. You'll have it for the people that were here for you when you came in. And he would take care of my son, and I didn't even know it. I wouldn't be home because, you know, I'd be out doing my thing when he came home from school, and he'd go over and see Bob, and Bob would like take care of him, you know, and then I guess drive him home, and sometimes it was 2-3 hours. I don't know, maybe longer, Bob. You know, don't tell me anything more. And Richard over there, I lived in the project. I moved around a lot because I was always going to be clean, so I moved from area to area all over the San Fernando Valley, West Hollywood, East Hollywood, Brentwood. I was everywhere, you know, and this time I was living in the projects. And Richard came over and started taking me to meetings, you know, and I said, you know, I think this is the time, Richard, I'm going to make it this time. And he'd say, what are you going to do different this time? And I went, I don't know, go to those meetings, I guess, you know. And I remember Steve picking me up for meetings. everybody helped. I lived on Kathy's couch a couple of times for a few days. These people were wonderful. And you know what they had? Every time I came back in and out, they lived in the same place. Some of them had jobs. And you know what? And most of them were poor. And I related to that, you know? And for some reason, I knew I was in the right place, and I just didn't know how to get what they had, you know? And I got it when I was supposed to get it, like 12 or 13 years later. And now since that, like Bob was saying, you know, other things have come up to help us, you know, extensions of our steps and our meditation, you know, whether it be a church or just be something as an extension of our step. And you know, some people end up going to therapy. I hope nobody goes to therapy before they work the steps, you know, but I hope that's just my opinion. And you know, I needed a little bit of help at 21 years clean and sober, you know, and I went and got it. And I would write inventories, and I would read it to that doctor, and then I would read it to somebody else, because I had to still do the process with the steps. I heard a lot about the fourth step when I was around these tables. I heard about the fourth step, and we had like the other programs, 12 and 12, and they told me to read those, and I read them, and I read in there that the obsession is like a cancer that will be lifted out of your head or something like that. And I thought, oh, I want that. I want this thing to be lifted out of my brain, this addiction, this big gorilla that's on my back all the time, you know? And through the steps. And I remember I used to read inventories to Sylvia, and I read them and read them and read them. Same things, different faces, you know? Some new stuff. And she'd say, Mary, go on with the other ones. Get on with it. Get on with it, she'd say. Get on with it, you know? And I remember when I was first around, this guy, Jack Whaley, he was an atheist. He's dead now, and he died clean. And he used to talk about squeezing baby chickens' necks. He talked at the first convention. And I thought he was funny, but he said that he was an atheist, and I thought, oh, it's okay not to be a Catholic or a reborn Christian or go and trying to get all that, you know, with all that stuff. And they told me, when he said that, I said, it's okay. You know, I was like Richard. I had a really hard time with G-O-D. I called it HP. And then my friend, Pat Martin, I'm breaking everybody's anonymity. Oh, well. She gave me this little plaque. And she was like in my second group after all these people helped me, you know, get clean. And she gave me this little plaque that said, because she knew I was like an agnostic, and it said, maybe God chose you to be the atheist. And I thought, okay, I can live with that. I've still got it. Maybe God chose you to be the atheist. You know? And I've had so much help from everyone. From just, I can't, some people don't even know that they've helped me, but I gotta say that Pat has been my longtime friend, and she has 28 and a half because I used for 6 months in the recovery house, but I wasn't using every day, and I wasn't using my drug of choice most of the time. But she helped me raise my son to stay home with him. I couldn't go to conventions and do things I wanted to because I had to stay home with that boy. And I had other people tell me how you go to work and you don't spit in the boss's face. You know, I learned all that. I learned all that stuff through people like you. Maybe not you in particular, but all those kinds of things. And I lost a child when I was clean and sober, and I didn't take anything, and I didn't want to take anything because I knew it wouldn't work, you know. And after that, it's like I had a spiritual experience, and I thought, oh, I've got what they've got now. I wasn't sure then, but I knew I had it after that. And I'm probably forgetting people I wanted to mention. And I remember, I don't know who took me there, but we went to a meeting in like, I don't know what year it was, real early. And we had to creep down this. We couldn't park in the alley. We had to park on the street. And one by one, we had to like kind of creep down this alley and sneak in this little converted garage. And there was about 6 of us in there. And then we had to leave one by one and talk real quiet when we were in there. And I remember meetings like that. I remember did you remind me when I saw you today? Anyway, somebody reminded me that I went to nightgowns I went to meetings sometimes kicking in my nightgown. And I was really out of it, but they accepted me. They didn't laugh at me, and just, they told me later that you had nightgowns on, and I went, I thought they were dresses. And Jack and I met years ago and kind of just been along the same path since I moved back up to San Jose, and I had so much to say and so little time. But anyway, that's my story. It's not a pretty one, but it's the only one I've got. Who used to say that? Somebody.
Dick shows up at my door, right? Dick H. Yeah, and yeah, and he's all dressed up. I said, "Wow, is this like a, you got to dress up for this?" He says, "Well, there's a party afterwards. It was somebody's birthday." Okay, well, hang on, man. So I went and changed, and I put a suit on. And went to the meeting with this guy, and he was a speed freak, and he was anyway. Okay, I don't remember a thing at the meeting. I just kind of shelled up, and tried not to move. I fear somebody might notice me, but after that meeting, a couple of guys came up because their names were mentioned earlier. I won't mention them because I still have a resentment towards them. And they went they went off on me, man, about the way I was dressed, and checked out my watch, and they kind of figured I was here too soon, right? And I stayed clean for a couple of weeks in spite of them son of a bitch. I was a prude. But they were right. And I was out the door, and actually, I did something that. I never have to do that again. I went. I started hanging around with a couple other newcomers, and we kind of decided we needed to get loaded, and I knew where a connection was, and I went there, and I got loaded, and they didn't. And then I went to a meeting, and I sat across. It was Rhodes and Moore Park, and there's a long table, and that's with a fireplace in there and French doors on one side. I sat in there, I think, with my back to the fireplace, and right across the table from me was Sylvia. And I don't think I've ever felt that bad in my life, man. I mean, she's intimidating anyway. And I just felt like dog shit, man, because here's this woman is like, I know, because she has a little bit of fun outside of the meeting, but there's never any fun in the meeting. Nobody has any fun in a meeting. They're down and dirty. They're just somber, miserable. I went to some of those AA meetings, and they seemed to have a good time, but we weren't there yet. And is somebody who is having a tough time with this fellowship, and I'm just there passing time, and I just really felt guilty, and I made a decision after that I needed to change something, so I didn't go to meetings for about 2 years. I stayed clean for about 2 weeks, and then I got I wasn't ready, but I ended back up in the hospital, the same doctor. Different feelings down here, scared, and I called out of desperation, and I kind of went through that same thing again. But I made the decision, I made the call, and it was something for me instead of just passing the time of day. And wow. Yeah, it is inside. I don't know, I couldn't say anything at meetings for months, really, other than my name and my disease. And then I was grateful, and just keep going back, But after the meetings, man, I got to tell you, that first meeting back, that Gene took me to that meeting, same thing happened after the meeting. I wasn't wearing a suit, though. What was different, though, is that they weren't there the first time, but they were there that time. There was 3 brothers that jumped me this time. There's one behind me, one each side. There was a big difference, though, in what was going on. I think they knew from one look that I was probably in the right place. And they wanted to know if I needed a ride home. They wanted to know if I needed a ride to the next meeting. They wanted to know if I needed phone numbers. And God, I was so grateful for that. I mean, I was like, wow, somebody cares about me. It was a big key for me. When somebody else cared for me, I started caring for myself. Well, it's like a little clue about what I thought about myself. And I later, months later, writing about it, start to find out some of those things. The meetings after the meetings were the best. That's when you could ask those questions about God. You couldn't ask those at meetings. Not me, anyway. I just can't tell you how grateful I am. I sit around at meetings, almost every meeting. At the end of a meeting, I look around the room at most meetings I go to, and there's more people in that meeting than there were in NA when I got here, and it's just blows me away, man. My clean date is like Mother's Day in '66, May 66. So. And I'm just really grateful to be here. Thank you.
I might have to use it. I guess you wonder why we sit and get this fellow up here. I understand you said you had to kind of match, to balance things out here, He had a watch when he got here, and we thought that was horrendous. How did he get here with a watch? He definitely wasn't finished using yet, And I think he had him a car. He had a truck. I think he had 2 trucks. Yeah. No. We had to keep him around in case we had to use him. That's what that was about. And then he said other people come along. He said, as you said, it's starting to grow. And they talk about this meeting. From this meeting, we used to have what's called a rabbit meeting that we used to have to sneak off to, or you had to have the clue as to where the next meeting was going to be. And so that at times, if you had to meet at somebody's home, you couldn't have these dope fiends running in your house, because police didn't allow you to do that shit. You were suspect, a bunch of us get together, you was automatically suspect there was some dope going down somewhere. So you can imagine us trying to meet in some of these here places that we had as homes. I won't say they were bad, but as she was talking about, most of us come in, we were poor. We done sold everything. Stole, sold, yours, mine, and anybody else's. So if we had a room to go to, so we had a meeting. I remember an occasion that they allowed me to have a meeting at my house. Everybody was there but me. Right? I had business to take care of. When I got back, the movie was moving over, so what can I tell you? But that's the way it was. And along came Jack. And it seemed to be a time, that I would say, cleaning up seemed to be a simple process now. You had places to go, and it wasn't that a lot of places, but there were a few places they could go to try to clean up. And we had friends that were not addicts that helped us along the way, like Dr. Quit and memory bad. What's the lady that was out there, a social worker? We had a judge. We had a number of people that Dorothy Gildersleeve. She's dead too. Dr. Quit's dead. Many of the people that helped us along the way are not here with us, both the ones that were addicts and were not addicts. But we've had a lot of help along the way getting here. And part of this help was people started finding out that recovery was possible, and they tried to institute this here recovery process into another arena, in a sense of speaking. And they started opening up places called what they call now halfway houses or recovery centers or drought places or whatever they may come of. And in some ways, that's how the next person got here, is through that process. And that's Jack.
My name's Jack. I'm an addict. And I got to tell you, I thought I was going to be taking a white chip at this meeting. When I got the call, it was almost like somebody, Michael, who called me, was expecting me to say, "Are you crazy? I ain't going to do that." It was because, well, I got something to ask you, and I don't know how you're going to react to it. And when he told me, I thought, shit, that's great, But of course, unfortunately, I don't get to be in that many rooms anymore where I'm the baby, and But then, actually, let me correct that. I said unfortunately. I'm glad I'm not. So that's not true. It's not unfortunate, but the experience to be able to be in the room, and he started reading off some of the names, and unfortunately, some of the names that he read off are not here. But these were people who were in the room when I got here, and there's a few times during this meeting that I was almost ready to cry from the gratitude and emotion of remembering where I came from, and how much these people played a part in some way in my being able to be here today. I'm going to share a couple of those stories. I don't think I ever shared the one about Sylvia with Sylvia. I've shared it with other folks. But when I was, as Bob mentioned, I checked into a recovery house at a time when I never heard about any anonymous program, didn't know anybody who personally that had ever stayed clean for more than I knew two people that stayed clean for a year, and they both relapsed and never got clean again. So I literally didn't believe it was possible to stay clean when I checked in this recovery house, and I only checked in this recovery house because my friend had to. I thought I'd keep him company. I had nothing better to do. And 2 months after we checked into this recovery house, it was July 4th weekend, we got to go on an outing, and we came up to San Jose for July 4th weekend and stayed at one of the recovery houses up here because we were nice to each other in those days. And they took us to a Saturday night meeting, and I thought I was going to cop because it was downstairs in this dingy hallway into this into this little room that looked real familiar, but it wasn't. What was going on there was not familiar to me. And they were having an NA meeting, and I remember when they introduced the speaker, and it was Sylvia. She scared the hell out of me. I walked out of there terrified, and I don't remember what it was. I just remember she scared the hell out of me, and it became more significant probably because I forgot. 15 minutes later, forgot about it. But a couple of years later, we had the occasion to be on similar committees and met in Central California to rearrange a book that we rearranged 750 times, a service book, and I was in more awe at the fact that I didn't run out of the room, because when I first met Sylvia, if they would have said, you're going in the same room to discuss anything, I'd have said, you're crazy. I ain't going in there. And I don't remember why or what it was. I just know she scared the hell out of me. And I was impressed, and I knew it was evidence that this program was working, that I was able to be in there, and we were able to work on this book. I remember Bob, coming into meetings, and fortunately being able to sit around sometimes and talk outside of meetings. Since my first sponsor was very much involved, who was also the director of the recovery house, and we'd go to Jimmy's house, and Bob would be there, and Mary, and Gene H. and Gene L. And talking to these people and being in awe of the history and the stories of NA. But to be honest with you, when I got here, being such an arrogant, know-it-all, the fact that I had all this knowledge around me really wasn't important, because I knew everything anyway. And it took years for me, it took a lot of years for me to realize the value and benefit of having the people that I have sitting up here around me. It didn't seem to matter, it didn't, as we got involved in being of service, watching these people being of service. Yesterday I talked about how everybody wore 3, 4, 5 hats. That was important for me, because I realized, once I finally got to the point of realizing that this program worked, that this is what I wanted, and that I was a part of this program. And that was only as a result of working the steps first. It wasn't until I worked the 5th step that I realized I'm a part of something for the first time in my life. And as and then I relapsed. I relapsed a couple of times. Had a similar experience as Sylvia talked about, going back to New York and shooting dope with 10.5 months clean, and then going back to my friend's house and having that recoiling reaction. Like I'd shot dope the night before, and I was going to shoot dope again, and I had the outfit in my hand, and I dropped it. I didn't drop it. I threw it at my friend, and I literally ran out of the house, ran 2 blocks to the bus stop to go hide until I could come back to California. Unfortunately, I've been clean ever since, and being the baby, that's only June 15th, 1972. And sometimes I like to think that my experience is really unique, but everybody in this room is coming into the program and has people that are close to them, and 20, 30 years from now is going to be such special experiences. The gratitude that everybody shares, I cannot even begin to tell you the gratitude I have in my heart for the people sitting up here with me, and for what Narcotics Anonymous has done for my life, because there's no way humanly possible for me to be where I am from where I came from. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps in closing this meeting, it said this meeting is brought to adjourn. Hope you got some recollection or some understanding as to where we came from. We were pretty much, to say the people up here was the conscience of Narcotics Anonymous for a lot of years. That was the only conscience you had. And it was difficult to relinquish that hold that you were going to make decisions on your own and going to be the conscience of Narcotics Anonymous all over the world. Sometimes it's hard to let go of that reins and say that you don't know what you're doing. You couldn't know what you're doing. You have no experience. Like we have all the experience, like truck drivers and plumbers and ditch diggers. We came to Narcotics Anonymous and we think we can run things. We try. Other than just being a conscience of the people here, as this thing will work and will continue to work as long as we work it. We have a legacy of recovery. We have established something that has never been done before. There was no legacies of recovery for so many years. They didn't know what to do with addicts for so many years. It was not understood that addicts could recover working with each other in a common cause and by some direction. And here it is self-evident that it can happen to the thousands of people that are recovering all over the world. So I wanted to say thanks to you, for being patient with us in our mistakes and difficulties and ups and downs and so forth. Don't go away. Don't go away. Don't go away. Not keep coming back. Don't go away. Yes, Sylvia.
Just to see how seeming like from tragedy, other things can be born. One of the big reasons that I was up in Berkeley was because this woman had been speaking with the professors, the sociology professors at UC. She had real grandiose ideas about things. But she had not enough clean time to come up and start this kind of meeting that was going to be to study addicts and stuff. And from that, I have to say, and just to see even the humanness that comes into it, this woman was a real power driver. But that's how the Berkeley meeting got started, because of her. But let me put this other thing in here. Without the steps, she wanted nothing to do with the traditions because she had ideas about money, property, prestige and stuff, and also felt she didn't use any heroin, she could smoke weed. But this is how the head can take you, see, left to one's own devices. But that really, I have to put it, without her, I don't think I would have been involved in all the meetings and all that kind of stuff, although my old man then was in San Quentin, and that was going to get me closer there to visit him. I have to tell it like it is. But just that whole thing of how it came about, and she ended up also with getting away from it, going off to other things and what have you, and with the loneliness that this woman had for a man, which is, that's the real, disease really, of just loneliness. And she just reached out too far to somebody, and they, because they couldn't just smoke weed, they went on, they smoked weed with her, and then went back to heroin, and anyway, he bashed her skull in, just murdered her, killed her. And so the blood, sweat, and tears of all of this, it's not, it really is, without the substance and the steps to just have us just be there with the traditions, with the steps, to just stay here and be here. Thank you.
Hello there. You need to be up here too. As you said, there are many people that said as responsible for the things that happened here today. I just hope that you carry something out that you could use, or something you can remember of. You shared some moments with us, and we shared some moments with you. Magdalena, August 12th, 61. With much madness in between.
June 15th, 1970.
So I don't know who's running this meeting. I was just moderating this portion of it. They all disappeared. See? We're going to close this meeting. If nobody's going to be, somebody have to do what we got to do. We're going to close this meeting with a simple serenity prayer.